Good morning. This is Gene. This is Friday before Saturday, our game against Brighton. I'll talk about that a bit later in the video. I just want to respond to some of Mark's tweets this morning. He's having like kind of a little meltdown about defending Ten Hag. It's fine. We all should defend him right now. Everything we know, he's clearly in the right position. But it's never just that. And I want to talk about this for a while because I hinted it in some of my other videos, and I had a nice little response by somebody yesterday when I brought up the old thing about white guilt. And normally when I do something like that, I usually will get a response. Usually they'll call me racist, but this guy didn't do it. He had a very thoughtful reply. I don't agree with him on everything, but I understand his point of view. And why I said that they're not directly linked, but they're also indirectly linked because as a group, white people tend to find faults with their own group than they do for anybody else. So then when we do that, we end up saying it's our fault. Then we apologize for it. And clearly we're the ones that we can't be proud of who we are, that type of thing. I don't want to go down that road, but I do want to talk about what Mark said this morning. And it's been going on all day pretty much, and I think that's fine. You know, he should defend the manager. We all wanted to have a coach that came in that would hold the players accountable, and this is what we got in Ten Hag. You can't now go out and be upset with what he's doing. And I take a grain of salt what Sancho has said in the reports, and again, I don't know how many times I have to say it. Just because you see it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I don't believe that everything that I've heard about Sancho, at least the response that he's had, has been 100% true. And I only believe what comes out of Ten Hag and what he has to say. And I still think this is all over nothing. He was asking a question after Arsenal game, a very tight game, a game that we could have won. They asked him why he wasn't there, and he gave an answer, and this is what you do. When you're that type of person, you say, well, he didn't really perform well in training and he wasn't selected. He didn't say anything about his other issues. He didn't bring him out. He didn't put him out to dry. There are a lot of fans out there, and that's when I look at their names, it looks like they're not really from England or America or Canada or something. They're from other parts of the world, and they were going to defend people that look like them. I'll just say that. But every day he has to say something about the media, which I agree with him in a lot of ways, but it's always that Enos players get a pass because they have a British passport. But it's like he says it sometimes and then he says it the other time, and it's not a linear type of thing. He will somehow blame something that it's not really related to the situation. So he said this morning, and I agree with him to the part that what he says. This is what he's been saying for the last 5-6 years, and it just seems like nobody really calls him out on it. And then when I do call him out on it, I don't know what I am, a hater. I've watched this guy since he had about 20,000 subscribers. After he got 1 million in, I didn't subscribe to him anymore because he started going down this road. And I'll talk about what these type of guys, whether it's him or Beth or other guys that work for United Stand, or even Sam Peoples, or guys on TikTok that have their own decent amount of following, Flying Pig, guys like that, who say that all I'm doing is giving my criticism. Stephen Howson, the guys that used to be at Full-Time Devils that are now in Stretford Paddock, these guys all say now all they're giving is criticism because they've actually got some pushback by, I guess, the mainstream media right now. And this has been going on for a while because they don't like the fact that they've taken over their market. And a lot of people watch them more than watching PPC or ITV or whatever, Talk Sport, that type of thing. So it was like 5-6 years ago, they were butting each other, Full-Time Devils and United Stand were like butting each other now, and now they're like together against the mainstream, and so they continually have this back and forth. And the guys that are mainstream says, "Oh, these are guys in the basements and doing this stuff." They don't really understand the type of platform that Mark has built, that like Sam has built, other players, other fans have built, or influencers, or whatever you want to call them, that they actually have more outreach than TalkSport has. So let me just read this last part. Like I said, he was talking about this all day, and again, for the most part, I'm with him. But he continually has to go back to this thing, if he was this or that, and it's all based on whether you're British or not. And I will talk about why I think those former players and pundits defend English players, and I'll get to that point in a second. Here it is right here. You can see it, and I agree with him when we get to this part where he says Arteta to Aubameyang, he got rid of him, and there was a lot of press about that as well. I remember that. Pep to Cancelo, there were other players that he didn't want around either, and nobody really said anything about it. All fine. Now he says fall out with an English player, and you're screwed, as we see with Ten Hag media reaction. I don't know it's been that bad when it comes to Sancho, but it doesn't even compare to what happened with him and Ronaldo. Is that the same thing? These are two foreign players, our coach and a foreign player, and the media in this country slammed him for that as well. If he's saying that the media only goes against foreign coaches, well, you just said that they don't say anything about Pep. They don't say anything about Arteta. These are not native English coaches. These are Spanish coaches. So you can't you can't have it on both sides. You can't continually say, well, they have a British passport, so we don't say anything bad about him. The former players will always defend them, although they don't really defend them on the other side of it. Or if you're from a foreign place, like you're a David De Gea, and the same media sits there and says it's probably about 3 or 4 years, he should have been gone by now. And you have people like me that said it 4 years ago that it was time for us to look elsewhere from David De Gea. Good a shot stopper, but it's not prototypical for the new type of modern football or goalie. And nobody's picked him up. So I don't know what that means. I'm just saying that's what it is. He's not playing right now. Maybe he's waiting for what he wants, or maybe he'll retire. He makes enough money. He doesn't have to play football again. But he's like in his prime years as a goalkeeper. So my issue is this: we continually say this. He continually puts this out there, and he continually blames the British media. And I said, in a lot of ways, I'm with him. But let's understand where these players are coming from. I mean, Mark never played the game at that level. He can say he likes to joke about it. I played the game. He has never played at this level. He has never played under the scrutiny of an English player playing in the Premiership, or somebody that might play over in Germany like Kane is right now. They have the most scrutiny of any player. But they also get when they get the results correct, they are lionized. They are looked at as celebrities, icons, heroes. So it's a double-edged sword for them as well. But if you have former players who just played the game, 35, 40-year-old guys that are talking, and these are guys that not always the smartest people in the room, right? But they played the game, and in their mind, they want to be in the same shoes of the players that are playing right now, and they understand the pressures that they go through, and they might come out and say, you know what, I didn't have to deal with all the social media like these guys are, and I don't know how I'd be able to deal with that if I was in that position. If Beckham comes out and says, you know what, I had all the shit to do with after the World Cup in '98, I couldn't imagine now if this was going on now, how I would react to it. So it's almost natural for you to defend your countrymen when it comes to this. Everybody else does it. Everybody else will somewhat point the thing to other players, other coaches. I mean, Mark knows this. When Wenger came into the Premiership, Ferguson called him all sorts of names because he was a foreigner and he was a coach in Japan, and he has no value to me in this country. What kind of player he is or what kind of coach he is. He came from Japan. it's you can have the opinion on an individual basis that maybe the media is going soft on certain British players. I don't think they did that to Harry in Greece. I don't think they really did that even to the guys that shot the penalties. I mean, they were basically looked at as victims. So I think that the country somewhat grouped around them. But if they were, let's say that was Foden, Mount, and Kane missed those last uh, penalties. What do you think would have happened to those guys? They would have, they would have been vilified by the media. They would have been vilified by the fans. But then you got to get past it, right? Because it's just a sport. It's just, um, you move on from that. So it's not strange. It's human nature to look at players that would have played the same um, positions that you played. A lot of these players played for the national team at some point. Guys like Michael Owen, Scholes, these guys are a little bit older, still younger than me, but and they still have a tie to the modern footballer. Um, but they also understand they didn't have to deal with the same shit that they dealing with. And I think there's been a difference when it comes to generations as well, because I'm not going to say the younger guys are soft, but they are kind of more soft, but it's for a different reason. It's just things have changed culturally so much that this whole idea of timeouts or I'm offended by this. Could Keane actually play now? Do you think that he would be okay with people online saying he's this and this and that? You don't think at some point that Keane would have snapped and said something to somebody online? Or, I mean, I think they would have. So you have this idea that those players back then would just be able to deal with this now. It's a different type of thing. And again, I'm not defending the players because they're all divas for the most part. They get sold the money, so much money. They're told no. They're never told no. They're never told no. So I'm not defending the players. But there's always more. It's never black and white. It just never is. And this guy's been going on and on and on, especially about David, because he has a bias to him. You think he's the greatest goalkeeper of all time. That's his opinion. And he takes every story and everything that's said is now a slant against him, the foreigner, because it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't care, wouldn't say anything if that guy happened to be British. And I'm sorry, we would. If we had a British goalkeeper and he was not doing well in the sticks, he would be vilified in the press. And we have to understand that Manchester United is still the biggest draw when it comes to media. There's a reason why that he has almost 2 million on his one channel, because it's for Manchester United. If he was staying the same shift for Manchester City, as successful as they are, he would not have that much. His talent is not immense that he would have that type of following. He just wouldn't have it. And we also understand that Mark has already said it this year. He's no longer really a fan. He still is, but he says he's more of an entertainer now. So he's going to be more provocative with his takes, and he wants clicks, and he wants debate. But then again, he wants debate on his own terms, regardless when he says it's all about a debate. It's not. If somebody says something or sends him a super chat, the dude acts like he's 12 years old. I mean, you know how it is when you write something, if you text somebody now, and they get something more from what you sent them, especially when we do this, because we're not really good with words sometimes. So we say something and somebody gets, oh my God, you're saying this. There's a tone to how you actually did it. You're like, what? I'm just telling you, I want you to be here at this time. I'm just giving you a goal to get to and be there. I'm not, there's no nefarious thing here. So when I look at stuff like this in the last couple of days, because the media is actually basically, they're talking about Maguire, and his mom actually came out, and this is years, right? That this ship, the last 2 or 3 years have actually been building up. And finally, his mom comes out and says what he says. Now, again, his mom's probably younger than mine too, or than me as well. And at some point, she feels like she has to defend him. And she's watching them. I don't know if she was at the game, but their own fans are booing him. And you're going to defend your kid. And I guess that's the best way to do it. And then we have people saying she shouldn't do that. That it's not a good look. Okay, that's fair. But now, because this is happening, and then the mainstream media is coming out and saying these people on their shows are saying stuff, and they're just throwing abuse at him. And now I have everybody on all these shows saying that's not really abuse. We're just being critical. And I'm like, okay, I think it's just weird. Uh, one times it's abuse, and the next day it's just being critical on how they play. I sat here and watched. I mean, I watched usually before the game. I'll watch what Mark has to say, and now he has a new show. They have people before him, but after the game, I usually watch the fan forum, and I've heard many, many times that, well, this guy's getting all the abuse from the fans, and they're getting abuse from that. He's getting abuse from that, and I'm like, I think that what they're just saying, he's not playing well on the pitch. Now, which one is what is critical analysis? What is abuse? I think it's pretty clear if you say something about someone's mom, or you say something about the color of their skin or where they're from or something like that, um, then that could be looked at as abuse. And I've seen them all. They've all like been on now talking about no, we're just being we're all just looking out at from a critical analysis. Look, I've watched every one of them, and I've heard them say certain things, and they've all said basically the same things about Maguire, that he has no character, no integrity because he didn't leave. Okay, that is about as personal as you can get, and to me, that's abuse because you're defaming the guy. You don't know nothing about uh, the background. And again, I don't defend him as a player. He does not meet what we need in the team right now. And I wish he would have left. But as I said in my video yesterday, he has every reason to fight for everything that he signed for in the contract. That's more, to me, that's more character there. He's being more, he's saying, my value as a player, I signed this contract, I want you to fulfill it. And you're upset because he won't leave, because he won't play every day. He made that decision. Or do you not believe that he thinks he can get back in the first team in the every day or each game? Or do you think now that he's lying about that? Again, you're attacking his character, and you don't think that's abuse. This guy again has been the Manchester United captain for more than anybody that's ever on TV that talks about it, and any of these people on these shows will ever be. He's been the England captain as well, and you think you think you understand his character. Um, he said something. Again, these footballers are not the most smartest people ever. About he shouldn't have to prove himself, and why should why should he? It's like you going in to see um, Alan Dershowitz, which I don't necessarily like because some of his viewpoints, or even some great science is back, and then you have to turn and say, well, how can that actually be true? Well, do I have to tell you everything I know to get to this point? There's a reason why I'm here. If you want me to ask about the team, or you want to talk about the mistake that I made, I'll talk about that. But I don't have to really prove myself. And it does, yes, the people, oh, you have to prove yourself every day in training. Of course you do. And he said that when he said, "I'm going to fight for my place." That's that how he says that. That's the same thing. But people just get hung up on things like that, and then like I said, every one of those players, every one of those pundits, every one of those influences, every one of those people that are on YouTube or on TikTok, they have all said horrible things about Harry Maguire, um, on how he plays on the pitch, and it's always physically related. He talks about the flat head and slab head, and he runs around with molasses. I mean, tell me when it becomes personal and it's abuse, or is it just analysis of the player? He wasn't in the right position. I mean, I said this about Shaw years ago. I said, I think he's a good player, but he's out of positions all the time. And that's why you see Mourinho is always yelling at him on the sidelines and says, you're in the wrong position. And Shaw has said this many, many times, that Mourinho changed him to be the better player, and now he's one of the best in that position in the world. He is, and it's because Mourinho got it out of him. There was no, I mean, that's not me saying abuse, but I'll tell you, when I watch all these games over the years, I've said many things about Pogba. I said he's running around with this like a chicken with his head caught off. I don't know, is that abuse, or is that critical analysis? You can't. It's very difficult when you continually push that word abuse out there, and then now you have abuse of maybe somebody saying something racist about those guys who missed the penalties years ago, or you say something about this that he's lazy, and then you look at the guy. Let's say it's Pogba. It's like, well, you can't say that because he's not white. He's black, and therefore that's a racial thing. I don't know why that comes up with, but just it's a very slippery slope when you start doing that. If you really want to be, there are 3 or 4 guys that I really watch that are more uh, analysis based, but they still have their own issues because we're all fans. So when somebody does something wrong, and you'll in your room, I'll be watching it here in the United States, and I'll say something that is very abusive. I will. I said, you fucking lazy ass, run around with your chicken head off. What the fuck are you doing, asshole motherfucker? Shit like that. And then I just move on from that. I don't sit there the next day and just analyze everything that the guy said and say something underneath my breath like that slab head, or that flat head, or that no character player, and why does he still have the armband? And you can't think that you can just say whatever you want to say and say that's just critical analysis, and then when somebody else calls it out and says this is all abuse. Now again, it's different. There's a reason why you're called a fan, because you're a fanatic, all right? And you're going to have that, and England has always had that when it comes to soccer, football. You've always had that, the vitriol that comes out of the stadium. It's something that will never probably leave, and that's part of the game. But we also have to understand that things have changed so much culturally, and also the fact that social media is 100 times worse than guys that just played 10 years ago. You have to understand how the players respond to that as well. And of course, the money kind of like clouds everything, because these players are basically their own brand, their own business, their own corporation. So if there's somebody like Mark that's saying shit about him, and he has this big, huge platform, and then he goes on Talk Sports and he says something on about that as well, and you have people watching him, and at some point these guys are going to respond to it, and maybe this is why Sancho did what he did with Ten Hag. Again, I'm on Ten Hag's side on this. I think that it was petulant by him to respond. I think there was nothing up to that point that anybody really knew about, of the fact that he wasn't playing at the level that we wanted him to play well. But always, Ten Hag was defending him and saying that he's doing well and he's getting better, and we just can't wait till he gets to the level we want him to be. But at some point, you have to make this decision. And now it's just playing off in the media and these great reporters that don't have Manchester United in their interests, and they just continually put out stuff. And then we have these guys that will continually report on this, and it continues. The circle jerk is why we're getting all this bad PR, and you just wonder why why it is. And I just say, well, we're Manchester United, we're the biggest club in the world. This is what's going to happen, and we just have to deal with it. And most of the time, we do. The players, at this point, they understand it. They're going to do what they have to do on the pitch, and we'll be fine. I fully expect that we're going to win tomorrow. We're going to have a decent performance, and we're going to move on from that. Now, if we don't, if the players continually not listen to the coach, then this could be an issue. And if we go to Bayern and they just beat the shit out of us, it could be an issue. I don't think it should be. If we need to hit rock bottom, then fine. We can. And we'll get the players that want to play for the manager, and we'll end up being better in the long run. So I guess that's just about it. It's just what they do. It's just, you can't have both, right? And they will continually say, no. I love him as a player. I love him as a person, or whatever. And this is just me I'm just looking I'm analyzing how he plays on the pitch. Well, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, that doesn't really sell anything. You have to have some sort of drama there. So they buy into it as well. And if they get something in the press, they will equate that thing in the press to how he plays on the pitch, and then they'll equate or have their own what they actually think about this player. And this is that's happening with Maguire. By all reports, all the players on England like him. Everybody likes him in the locker room here. But somehow he doesn't have the character, and he should have left, because he has, he's lacking in character, even though, like I said, he was a Manchester United captain. And before I go, Um, it's because, of course, all the time at the end of the day, he'll still, and I'm talking about Mark, he'll still blame the Glazers. And he'll be saying it's the Glazers' fault that all these leaks come out of the dressing room and stuff. And I'm like, well, how many times have you been on your show saying I have a source that's giving me this information? So is it the Glazers' fault that you have a source that's there that's giving you this information, if you believe that or not? Um, or is it just how it is right now because it's the biggest club in the world? And when I look at that and you're getting this information, are you any better than if you blame McGuire, if you think he's the one who's leaking all this stuff? Um, are you any better? So you you can't you can't be above it. You can't up there and say I'm just talking up here and I'm looking down at you and I'm saying all you guys what you're doing is wrong, but what I'm doing, the information I'm getting, that's okay. That's freedom of the press. That's a good thing, And we would have a show without it because, I mean, Mark is not a. I mean, he's somewhat talented, right? But he's a guy you would walk by on the street and you wouldn't notice him, right? He's not a good-looking dude per se. He doesn't he doesn't exude anything really, and I guess that's being personal. I mean, or maybe I'm just analyzing his ability as being a podcaster or a online celebrity, celebrity. I'm just analyzing it. I'm not being critical at all. I'm not throwing abuse at him. Again, it's just one of those things. And I guess as you get older, you look at that and you kind of just roll your eyes. I'm like, so you're now saying the guy has no character because he didn't leave the team, and then at the same time, oh, I heard this. Everybody's saying this that we're saying this and we're being abusive, and they're like, no, 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 no. He does what he can for Manchester United. Okay, I think that you're all hypocrites. But anyway, you guys have a good night. Oh wait, I did want to talk about tomorrow, and I'll talk about that. I think we're going to see a very interesting lineup. A lot of people think we're going to put Bruno out right. I hope that doesn't happen. He may start that way, and maybe he will change it later in the game if we need goals. But I hope they start off with Palestri, Højlund, Rashford, Casemiro, Bruno, Amrabat if he can play. If not, Mount. I don't know where they're at in there, but somewhere in the three. And then if Martinez can play, fine. Lindelof has to be there. The question is do you keep Delo, because I don't think Shaw is back, and Wan-Bissaka, or you get Ringarong? And I'll probably say that they'll probably let Delo play there, and that'll be our team. I think there's only one or two possible changes, and that could be if Mount can't play, or that we have to, and he doesn't trust Palestri to play out on the right, then Bruno might be over there, and then maybe we'll get Eriksen there in the midfield as well. But we'll find out tomorrow. Our game's at 9 o'clock here in the morning, and then I have then I have Florida State playing in almost a hurricane, so that might change how the game is going to work. But I think we'll win 3-1. I think that we can't stop them from scoring because Brighton's going to give opportunities, and we still don't have the back four and the goalkeeper 100% together. I think that it's going to be a real open game, I think, and that could hurt us. But at the same time, I really think at some point we're going to just blow a team away. And Brighton is the type of team that they could beat you clearly, but it's also a team that can be taken away. I mean, West Ham put 4 against them. If you do the right thing, you definitely can do it. Now, the way that West Ham did it was all counterattack. So it'll be interesting to see if Ten Hag does that, even though we'll be at home. He might just do that and try to get him on the break. I don't want that. I think he wants to get to the type of player, the type of team or tactics that he wants, hold it onto the ball, and then get the ball back, and then breaking off of that. But actually get goals in open play as we're attacking, not so much just steal the ball, come back and get it on a counterattack and then score that way. He wants to actually have a total team goals, a total team type of goal, and do that. But we'll see. Thank you for watching. You guys have a good weekend, and I hopefully not too many more movies or videos this year, or this day, or this week. I'm getting tired, I guess. So let me know what you think. Just tell me if I'm off base. And again, I will listen to everything. If you're respectful, like this other guy was, I'll be respectful. I'll respond to you. There is no, I think you always have to look a little bit more, just take a step back, almost like a view, aerial view of the situation and see what's actually happening. I don't blame the Glazers how we're playing on the pitch. That's not their issue. You can blame for a lot of other things. I don't blame the Glazers because somebody's leaking shit in the locker room. We're Manchester United. People are going to try to get that information, and when players or pundits or somebody like Mark says that's on the Glazers, but yet they have people there that's giving him that type of information, what does that mean about him? Anyway, you guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later.